Here's something many new Fujifilm owners have lots of questions about, and that is, what are my options to power or charge my camera? Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome to Pal the Tech. Today we are talking about how you can power and charge your Fujifilm camera. I will be demonstrating with an X-T3, but you can apply these options to most other Fujifilm X series line of cameras. Many of them use USB Type-C ports located right on the side, but also note that some of the older Fujifilm cameras use micro USB ports instead. Let's begin with the most obvious way to power your Fujifilm camera, using the Fujifilm brand battery. Fujifilm has two main types of batteries, depending upon which camera you're using. The NPW126S and the more recent and larger NPW235. And frankly, all things being considered, carrying around a few extra batteries can be the best and most hassle-free way to power your camera on the go. You can also get third-party brands of batteries. While I've never had any problems myself, I have heard of photographers who experience mixed results with third-party brands. Battery discharge times vary, and the battery charge indicator may not correctly match the third-party battery's true power remaining. This is because the camera's power remaining tracking system is calculated against Fujifilm brand batteries discharge cycles. So make sure you do your research before buying any third-party brand of battery. The next step up for power is to use the vertical grip. This allows you to add 2 extra batteries, and you can also connect the grip to an AC adapter. You can now either continuously power your camera or charge your batteries. However, these grips may not be the best solution for everyone. They're kind of a mixed bag. In the case of the X-T2, they do provide extra functions like boost mode and faster frame rates. On the X-T4, they also provide the missing headphone jack. But on the X-T3, they don't really do anything extra. So if you don't really care about the ergonomics of having a grip, then putting just a few more batteries in your pocket is a lot cheaper. The next step up for power options is to use a USB power bank, otherwise known as a black, blocky sort of thing, right? You use these power banks to either charge the batteries in your camera or to supply power to your camera while you're shooting. Let me explain how this works. There are many kinds of USB power banks that you can get, and they generally fall into one of 2 categories. The common smaller ones like these have a maximum power output of 5 volts and 1 amp. These were older USB standards that were meant for the transfer of data and not power transfer. But the second category of USB power banks and wall adapters now include a more recent USB standard called power delivery. You might notice that some of these units actually have a little PD designator. You see that right there? Power delivery basically allows USB power devices like this one to shove more power down the cord and toward your camera. Now you can use either type of USB system, either the older USB or USB power delivery to charge your camera's batteries. Most of them will all work for that. So you want to connect a USB power bank to the camera via the USB cable. Make sure that your camera is turned off, and then you will see this little green light appear showing you that your camera is charging. You see that? So now in this situation, the camera is off. I have a battery in the camera, and I'm connected via USB to one of these power banks. And at this point, the battery is now being charged. Okay, so far so good. Now, the problem that comes up is when you turn on your camera while it's still connected to the USB power bank. Now, based on my own and very limited research, it seems that the Fujifilm camera needs anywhere from 0.9 to 1.5 amps to be both on and powered. And that specific amount would depend whether you're shooting video or stills and so forth. And you would even need more power if you were shooting, say, 4K video at 60 frames a second. Your camera can't take that little 1 amp of power that these older USB power banks are giving it. As soon as you turn on your camera, it needs more power. It needs it for the LCD screen, the autofocus, the raw processing, and so forth. And so now what would happen in this case case is that your camera would just start to drain out the internal battery in order to get that needed power. However, now if you connect one of these USB power banks with power delivery to your Fujifilm camera, now when you turn it on, the camera will act more like it's plugged into a power outlet on a wall. Let me show you. You see that icon there? That means that the camera is drawing its power from the USB connected power bank. But even if I hook up some non-power delivery USB power banks, such as this older Belkin non-power delivery one, I still see the power plug icon on the camera. However, the difference now is that the camera will start draining the batteries faster than if I had used a more powerful power bank with the PD standard. Granted, you can still shoot for longer periods of time as the battery will drain more slowly, but it will still drain even if you see this icon. Fujifilm has in the past recommended a unit such as this Anker 26800 PD. As you can see, this one outputs 5 volts, 3 amps at its lowest power delivery setting, just like the stock Fujifilm charger. So as long as you connect the camera to the PD port, not the other ports, but the PD port, you should be good to go. Now, in theory, you should be able to use most of the more recent power delivery power banks. The key is that they must be able to supply the camera with the necessary power to run everything. Not only that, but use the other features of power delivery to help regulate the amount of incoming amperage. Now, something very important to keep in mind, even with power delivery, and that is you cannot charge both your camera's battery and power the camera at the same time. The camera must be off in order for the battery to be charged via the USB port. You know it's charging when you see the green light appear. Also, if you have the battery grip attached to the camera and you have the camera off and you are connected to an external USB power bank, that power bank will only charge the single internal battery inside the camera. The 2 batteries inside the grip will not be charged. I'm getting bored talking about batteries, so we're only going to cover one more. You can use even larger batteries, such as this BAB, right? Otherwise known as a D-tap battery, to charge your Fujifilm camera via USB as well. However, this is some serious battery, and you need to be very careful using this, and most likely you're going to need to use a voltage converter in order to connect it to your camera. I'm not going to cover D-tap batteries in this video, but just know that they are an option, particularly if you're putting together your own video rig. Now let's talk about connecting your Fujifilm camera to AC power, meaning you connect it up, it stays on, and you never have to worry about battery life. There's a few ways to do this. The first, which I already covered, is to purchase the battery grip and then to use that to power the camera from a wall outlet. Expensive, but a good option if you like the larger ergonomics of the grip. A second method is to use a dummy battery. They look like this and they connect to an external power source, either another power bank, right, or an adapter which connects directly to an AC wall power outlet. These have an advantage over using a power bank battery connected to the USB port because you don't tie up that USB port on the side of the camera if you need it for live streaming or a webcam. However, like third-party batteries, you need to be even more cautious when purchasing dummy batteries and make sure that they have decent reviews online and stick with the better-known brands. Now, there's a problem to using dummy batteries. Because you've removed, right, the real battery and are basically now just using a power converter, if for whatever reason you lose power, you know, the cord gets knocked loose or the power supply gets interrupted or whatever, then your camera loses all power. And that would be horrible to happen in the middle of a video shoot or a webinar. So keep that in mind when deciding to go with a dummy battery. I use one for my studio rig right up here, and it works out fine for that sort of thing. A third way of connecting your camera to AC power is to use a USB-C power adapter like these. You plug one end into the wall, and then you run a USB-C power cable from the adapter directly into your Fujifilm camera. However, these power adapters need to supply enough power to run the camera. I would not recommend any USB power adapter that is less than, say, 20 watts. And you may already have one that works. For example, this laptop computer USB-C wall charger will work just fine. So does this 20-watt USB-C power adapter that comes with the iPad. Or even this little 20-watt Anker Nano Pro. Not all power adapters are created equal, and I will have links to some down below in the description of this video that will work. Here's a few important tips to know regarding the whole power the camera, charge the batteries sort of thing. First, when using any USB-C power source to power your camera, it is important to use the right cord. Sometimes you'll connect a USB cord that can't handle power transfer, and that will cause the Fujifilm camera to mistakenly think that it's in some kind of a data tether mode, and it won't work. So you want to use a USB cord that can handle power running through it, okay? I'll have links to those types of USB cords in the description below this video. Secondly, remember that when your camera is turned on, it will not charge the batteries. Whether you're connecting it to a power bank or a wall outlet or whatever, in order for you to charge those batteries in the camera, your camera must be turned off. Third, on some models of Fujifilm cameras, such as the X-T4 and the XS10, I believe, you have the option to charge your batteries while your camera is connected to your computer. If you want to use your laptop computer to charge the batteries on your camera, you can do that. However, you need to go into your camera settings, go down into the little wrench area under connection setting and look for USB power supply setting. Do you see that? Go ahead and turn that on. And then you'll be able to charge your batteries while your camera is connected to your computer. Don't forget to turn that off when you're done. Fourth, if your camera is connected to a USB-C wall charger power adapter supplying continuous power to the camera, I recommend that you turn off the camera when you're not using it. Don't just leave it on all the time. Now, I've left this studio camera on for, let's just say, a few days at a time, and nothing's ever happened. But I don't think it's a good idea, and you should always turn off your camera when you're not using it, even if it's plugged into the power outlet. And lastly, there are a lot of options out there, particularly when hooking up dummy batteries and third-party AC power adapters. Some work great. Some will destroy your camera. Make sure you do your research before monkeying around with any third-party power options connected to your valuable camera. I will have links to helpful resources as well as all the items that I mentioned right below in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope the video was helpful for you, or at least entertaining. And if it was, be sure to give it the like and subscribe. I will see all of you again in another video very soon. Take care.